This is what professional people do. Professional people say, we're going to do something, and then they go ahead and do basically what they say they're going to do. And it's okay to feel sad and to feel disappointed for a few days. And it's also important for us to, after we've had a little bit of time to mope, to basically bounce back from that, wake up tomorrow, do your hair, put on some makeup, and go to school. Just enjoy your junior year. And I'm very super proud that you were willing to talk about it here publicly.
Like, at the end of the day, things might not change, but I would kick myself if I didn't at least try.
Get ready for the next iteration of you on your path to becoming wealthy. On this show, you'll get the insider's view on wealth creation, the class none of us got taught in school, with my co-host, daughter, and beginning investor, Sophia Bosch. And now, let's get started.
Welcome to the Becoming Wealthy podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Bosch, and I'm with my co-host,
Mama Bosch. That's how I like to call myself lately.
Yes.
Sophia, so what's going on? What are we talking about today?
Well, actually, you could say that.
I know that you're not very excited about this topic, but I thought that it would be an interesting one to talk about, and that is, how do you bounce back or come back from disappointments, or what happens when, things don't go your way? And I know that there's one particular thing that hasn't gone your way lately, and that is...
Well,
over the summer, you decided, right?
Yeah, over the summer, I have friends. I was becoming great friends with some girls, and they were all on the soccer team. And they all convinced me to play soccer. They're like, for years, it has been no cut, so I would automatically be on the team. So I was like, okay, great, let me try it out. So it starts coming. I went to the first meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I raise my hand and say, is it okay if I don't have experience? They're like, of course. Like, it's our job to understand where to place and direct people of all different skill level.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, great. I felt so much more comfortable making mistakes, things like that. 2 weeks in, they announce, we're going to have cuts. And I'm like, oh crap. I was under the impression that there were no cuts.
So traditionally, for the last 3 years, or I think the soccer team for the girls basically has been a team where they struggled with actually participation and getting people, girls to enroll. And this year, I guess it was different. But when you made up your mind and you decided, okay, I'm going to prepare.
Yeah, everyone was telling me that there are no cuts. Even at the beginning of the season, 2 weeks ago, I was in that meeting, and the head of the athletics director,
Mm-hmm.
that he literally, when we were all gathered, he's like, so congratulations, you're on the soccer team. Like, he literally said, you are on the soccer team. And he introduced us to our coach, and he's a new coach, by the way, so that might have played some role in the more engagement in it, because he is a good coach.
So basically, then more girls started hearing about it, that he was...
I don't know if it was that, but this incoming freshman class had a lot of people that have played and wanted to be on the soccer team, had experience, things like that. So 2 weeks in, they're like, they're going to be cuts.
Mm-hmm. And then you get a text that none of the other girls get, except for...
It's like, can you meet me after school? Let's talk. And
3 girls, I guess, got the text, right?
3 girls got the text, and we go in, and he's like, I'm sure you know what this is. And yeah, I understood that I was cut. If it was so here's where my issue with it comes into play. I understand that if they started from the beginning, from the very beginning, if they wouldn't have said, congratulations, you're on the team, if they would have said, okay, there is a possibility that there will be cuts depending on how many people show up. Like, if they just said that from the beginning and then I was cut, so be it. I know I'm not as experienced as some of the other players. I understand that. I would have, I can move on, get past that. Like, I'm not mad at that. If they cut me because I suck, that's valid. And because I can only go 4 out of the 5 days and not every single day how they want it to be. Okay, that's why I got cut. Sure. But for
It's
them,
flip-flopping that
Yeah.
bothers you.
it's the flip-flop. But for them to say, go from congratulations, you're on the team, to actually you're getting cut. There are cuts and you're cut. That's where my issue lies.
I get it. And I am so, you know what? I actually like that you're a little bit upset about it. And number one, I'm okay with the actual cut, and I'm gonna tell you why. And one of the reasons why is it's okay to sometimes not get what we want. And
I agree.
and I also agree with you that it was completely bad style from a leadership perspective is to basically to announce one thing
Yeah.
and then to
And
say
especially
or do something else.
Yeah.
Because then you're not doing what you say you're gonna do.
Yeah. And honestly, at this point, I'm okay that I'm not on the team. Like, that's fine. But I need them to recognize that they shouldn't have done that from the beginning. Like,
Not just to you, but to the other 3 girls.
to the other
girls, yeah.
to the other girls also. They also cut someone who was on the team
Last year.
last year,
Mhm.
and she was good. Like, she had experience, so they can't pull that same argument with her, and they did pull the same argument. So it's all very shady in a sense. It doesn't sit well with me. I mean, obviously it doesn't because I got cut. But if they just wouldn't have switched it also coming from a very a highly reputable private school here in town, they should conduct themselves more professionally than that, than to give hope to young girls that they can be in this community, be a part of the team, and then just take that away like that.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that is not it's not so.
No, I want them to understand
And so
so
what are you doing in order to make them understand that? You know, is it what measures?
Well, during that conversation,
Uh-huh.
I was sitting there making him feel so bad about himself.
As it is, let me tell you, like I'm sure that it was not a pleasant conversation for him.
For him.
Nobody likes to make cuts. I like
I
either
understand
as an employer, I can tell you I don't like firing anyone, you know.
No.
Sometimes especially because it's not against that person, it's sometimes against just the level of skill set.
Yeah.
In your situation, skill set could have been, you know,
Yeah.
one of the major roles.
No,
but the main issue here that in discussion is
Yeah.
basically the perception that they gave that it's one thing, and yet 2 weeks later they changed their mind and it's now something different.
Yes.
And
And they also led me to believe that false hope. I had already made such great connections on the team. I felt like I was part of the team. Everyone was very welcoming, very nice. I finally felt like I was in a community where I was supposed to be, and that was gone.
I know that is so difficult, but at the same time, that you need to take it as a redirection, basically, from the universe. Sometimes we don't get what we want, whether we deserve it. Sometimes we even have the skill set and we still don't get what we want for whatever reason. And in this case, yes, there's this technicality of them having announced it as a no cut,
Plus,
and there's cuts.
I would like to add on to the technicality part. He even said, he kept emphasizing that doesn't matter on your, like, it does not matter your skill set
Uh-huh.
or your age, if you're a junior, if you're a freshman, because all the freshmen are still on the team, but that's because they need 4 years to develop. They still have 4 years with the, I can see that viewpoint, but
That it's strategic basically
yeah.
from a coach that he has 4 years with a girl that is just incoming from freshman year. And
Yeah,
groom that girl, even though her skill set might not be,
yeah, they
know,
can develop.
it can develop there. Yeah. Versus
But
with you, he has,
yeah, 2 years and it's whatever.
and it's over.
But
Yeah.
part of the technicality is he's a coach. He kept reiterating every single practice too that it doesn't matter what the starting lineup looks like. If you're not a starter, there's always things you can do from the bench. You can encourage, you can understand the plays. Like the bench support is just as important as outside, and he cut the bench basically. I knew I wasn't going to be a starter, but that also gave me hope. And apparently yesterday, after he did those cuts, he showed up to practice. There were only 12 girls. That is just barely enough to just to play a game against a different team. That's not enough for a scrimmage. That's not enough for anything. So if he wouldn't have cut those 3 girls, he would have had 15 on that field.
I like that you're waking up because I know at the beginning of this episode,
Yeah.
so you were not.
So he proved his point. Or like he proved himself he showed himself that these girls don't always show up to practice. They don't always tell him that they're not gonna show up.
Yeah.
And sometimes he won't have enough. What happens then? He would have needed those other girls that he just cut.
Yeah, I get it. So the very first point, we've established it was wrong for them to flip flop. I really like that you basically went in there and you did not make that cut easy for him.
No.
And that you basically advocated that, for yourself, where you said, hey, you mentioned it's a no cut environment. You mentioned that in spite of me not being able to be here 5 days of the week, that I would be missing the 1 day because we're doing this podcast.
But my effort also in those 4 days were like, I was talking to all the girls that I had great connections, but I literally asked any freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior that was on the team. I knew them. They could vouch for me that I was giving it my all on the 4 days that I was actually there, and that I think they were all saying that I was better than some of the other people that stayed on the team. So I don't understand if it's out of experience or skill or anything. They all don't add up to me.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. So now, right now, what you have is you have two options. You can continue being basically resenting this decision that I think, based on the flip-flopping, doesn't sit well, number one,
And I've accepted it. Like, that's fine. But in the future, do not do that. My point is that it's okay if I don't get, I'm not going to be let back on the team, but they have to understand that that's not the way they should have gone about it.
So maybe the next step here to do is, I know you've had a conversation with, directly with the coach, that maybe the next conversation would be in the way of a written, conversation or message that is being sent to the person above this, which would be the head of school for either the athletic director or the head of school for high school, and say, hey, I know that, I didn't have the skill set. I know that this year was different, but I think this is something that you should change your approach for next year. And that is that if you tell girls that it is a no-cut environment, that you should honor your word, because this is what professional people do. Professional people say, we're going to do something, and then they go ahead and do basically what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
So this is something that I think you could still do and basically bring it up with the head of school for high school.
Yeah.
And send an email, and then like I said, and then you have then two choices. Number one is, feel bad about it,
Yeah.
or number two, do something about it in terms of making sure that it doesn't happen to other girls in future years. And then number three, I would say, is look at it from a bigger perspective. This is a commitment that was basically
Like we switched
total-
around everything. He doesn't know me and I know these sports things like cuts or whatever, they don't know. But at a high school level, at a private school with just like, come on.
like we're basically,
Come
you're
on.
saying they're basically more lenient than if you were in
Yes.
club.
If I were in club, like they don't really care about all those things. Here it's like we're paying a lot of people, but that's a different point.
But you know what? I'm actually happy then this is happening, because I don't want you to think that because you're
I
paying
know.
for something, you're entitled to something.
But also, I would like to point out that high school, they say, oh, try new things. Like high school's the time to get involved, try new things. And I did get involved, try new things, but they deprived me of that opportunity.
I know. And I think it was the style in which it was done that is basically doesn't
Yes.
sit well. But then right now, basically the choice, like I said, we have is we couldn't do anything about your particular situation. So maybe you can do something about the situation of future girls in future years. And if this is something super important to you, this is something that then you should consider taking up in senior year. There's always next year.
Yeah.
And in order for the skill to not be an obstacle, now is the time to then double down. Is this something that you want to double down? Or do we look and have a bigger, wider perspective and think about, in the scope of my life, of the next decade of my life, what role does soccer have in my life?
Yeah.
Is it going to have a big role? And if that is not the case, yes, as uncomfortable and as not so nice to feel, being cut is.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. Yeah, I guess it's just the
Circumstances in which it happened. I know. And
because
and so
again, like I want to go back.
advocating for yourself.
Yeah,
And
I
advocating
understand.
for others in the future.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate that that it is the situation, because if they would have just cut me from the beginning, if they said, okay, it's a cut team, like be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And if I got cut, I wouldn't be salty. I know I'm not as experienced as some of the other girls, but some of the other girls without experience stayed on the team. So
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I totally have understanding where you're at. So I think what is left now at this point is now think about the 8, hours of commitment, or 10 hours of commitment with game,
what can I
or
do?
12 hours. And so what can you do that in the grand scope of, your path over the next 5-10 years, the next big milestone will be college. So what can I do to perhaps, have an upper hand in my in my college applications, to portray myself and to show my best self, to these universities that you're applying for, that is not soccer.
Mhm.
And that is more relevant to the field of study that you're going to be studying, which, you have established that it's going to be business. Or have you changed your mind?
No.
Okay, good. Well, that's a good thing. So, so I am actually very proud of you, Sophia, for basically taking a good punch in the gut, because this is how this feels, right? A punch to the gut. And it's okay to feel sad and to feel disappointed, and for a few days. And it's also important for us to, after we've had a little bit of time to mope, to basically bounce back from that and wake up tomorrow and do your hair, put on some makeup, and go to school and just enjoy your junior year. It's a fantastic time in your life that you're in. And it's not a time to be resentful. It's a time to basically have fun, put in the work for the next, phase of your life, which will be college life, and just keep going, right? What do you think?
Yes, I agree.
So, and I am very super proud that you were willing to talk about it here publicly, because we were talking about one of our guests that we're gonna have here on the podcast, being a lady that talks about how sometimes girls having capability, being driven, and being brilliant, but sometimes people not seeing them because they're not willing to feel uncomfortable and speak up. And here, in spite of you feeling
No,
uncomfortable,
I'm always gonna put up a fight. I don't care. Like, at the end of the day, things might not change, but I would kick myself if I didn't at least try.
if you didn't at least try, yeah. And if it is important, it's something that we can work on, during the remainder of junior year and into summer, and
Yeah.
apply for the team again in senior year. There's always that.
We'll see.
So with that, or you use that time, to something more, to make yourself
Yeah, college application. That's
more
funny.
relevant for college application process. Absolutely. So thank you, Sophia, for just keeping it together, let's say, in this episode, and venting your frustrations, and basically getting comfortable with having difficult conversations and difficult in expressing yourself, basically, when you're dealing with difficult circumstances. So I'm really, really proud of you for doing that. So good job. So with that, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. If you have a teenager that, it has been going from something, a situation similar to Sophia, please share this episode with them. Leave us a 5-star review, and we look forward to spending time with you on another episode of Becoming Wealthy. Thank you so much.